Thank you all for joining us for this workshop on convergence and digitization of the arts. My name is Kirti Kumar. I would like to thank the NCPA and HSBC for inviting me to uh, share my knowledge on embracing the digital space through this medium with all of you today. As we all know, with the pandemic, artists and art centers around the world are undergoing a massive digital transformation. Let's take this opportunity, learn more about leveraging the digital space to promote and propagate the arts. Please note the session will be for about 90 minutes, followed by a Q&A session. As the session ends, I request you to please leave us a feedback in the chat section on how you felt, what you liked about this workshop, and if it is going to be helpful in your professional, in your profession, career, or otherwise. Post the session, we'd love to hear from you. NCPA would definitely love to hear from you. Do send your feedback over by mail or by sharing it on social media platforms. Do tag NGMA on this, NCPA on this. I'm sorry. Um, your feedback is important, and this will help NCPA to explore more such modules. So I will be taking you all through on a presentation today. It has a few slides. We will be discussing various things. As you all know, the way content is being created and consumed in the performing arts space has changed dramatically in the last few months. So how best can we use what we have on hand, and how best can we use what is available online as freely available software, and with a little bit more investment, how we can make the experience for our audiences, our students, and for ourselves better. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be exploring as part of the session. There'll also be a live demo of a couple of softwares, and there'll be screenshots of some of the softwares and tools that we are already, most of us are utilizing, are using it in our day-to-day lives, but how little tweaks, can enhance the entire experience. So that's exactly what we'll be talking about today. So let me begin with the slides. So today we really are at the convergence of performing arts and the digital space, and this is you know a complex ecosystem that we are dealing with. And today we are dependent so much on technology to power up our arts, power up our arts practices. So I would begin with this particular thought that I actually had. We all know that Natya Shastra, which was written several hundred years ago, is the Bible on Indian dance and dramaturgy. It has 36 chapters, covering various topics from stage design, lighting, audio, sound balancing, dancing, dramaturgy, expressions, what not. Bharatamuni has written 36 chapters in Natya Shastra. You might wonder why I'm talking about this. My opinion is this: had Bharatamuni written Natya Shastra today, in today's times, he would have added an other chapter to his book, and he might have even called it Ankikam. The term Ankikam refers to the digital space. We all of us are using the digital space to a large extent today to convey, to convey and communicate with our audiences and students. So that is the scenario that we are living in right now. So today we will be looking at some of the basic devices. This all of us know, we have been using it in our day-to-day lives. I'm putting it in an order here. The first one being the laptop, which is the most stable device, laptop or a desktop. Then we have the iPad, and then of course the handheld, the mobile phone. Coming to the first two devices, if we are using a laptop or an iPad to go live or to function, to use it on different video conferencing platforms, first thing that we really need to look at is at what level, eye level, is the device kept at. This is the suggested eye level. It needs to be at eye level. The device needs to be at eye level. This basically is so that people who are watching us, they look at us in the straight possible way. In case, let's say, the device is kept at a height, the way the way the subject appears looks a little odd. So it sometimes looks like the torso is bigger and the legs are smaller, or if the device is kept below, it feels like the legs are long and the torso is short. So we do not want that kind of an experience. So which is why the suggested placement of the device is generally at eye level. And if it is a phone that we are using, definitely use a tripod. This gives stability to the phone. How much ever we may hold it stable, in our hands, it's never stable. Whereas once it is placed on tripod, it gives us much more flexibility. One, it is stable and we can pan, and we can look at all of those aspects as well. So that way, these are the ways that we should really be using our devices, basic devices, of course. Apart from that, I'm sure we know this. We are using our Bluetooth speakers, mics, earphones. All of this become necessities in today's times, and of course, the the, the broadband, right? Unless we have a strong connectivity, it is really not possible for us to communicate in the right way, in the most effective manner with all our audiences. Our devices might be the best, and our art might be the best, but if we don't have connectivity, it's really tough. We won't be able to do much at all. So connectivity becomes an important aspect. Now we'll move further to not so basic devices. Yeah, of course, here when I'm talking about a laptop or a desktop, one might ask, what is a good laptop? What is the configuration? So we will discuss that in detail in my forthcoming slides. And of course, definitely having good broadband connectivity and a backup dongle. Coming to audio, these are some of the devices: sound card, speakers, portable speakers, mics, different kinds of mics. So we will talk about this as well in detail going further. And of course, the device that captures all the action. Now the entire performance or classes, it's all captured through a small lens hole in our cameras. So we really need to get the best device possible to communicate effectively. So the way I have structured this session today, uh, the whole idea is we are going to be focusing on what is the requirement in today's times, how do we need to prioritize these things, and the entire session is structured in such a way that the learning curve is shortened. I have spent several days, several weeks, several months, researching these things, and not just that, and also applying it in my work. So I have put all of that experience, my understandings, learnings, my interactions with so many other artists and technicians, and I have put that all together in a capsule so that the learning curve is shortened. We'll go ahead to the next part, which is the video conferencing platforms. I'm sure all of us in the last few months are pretty well versed with using video conferencing platforms for our work. These are some of the platforms that are popular: Google Meet, Zoom, WebEx, Teams, BlueJeans. Most of us are today comfortable with Zoom, Google Meet, and many of us are also using Teams. WebEx, of course. BlueJeans is a popular video conferencing app in the West. And I'm just going to be speaking about a couple of them today. Zoom, especially because many of us are on Zoom. We are using Zoom as a platform to both teach as well as perform and conduct conferences and seminars. We all already, most of us know how to set up a meeting, so I'm not going to get into that kind of detail. I'm more interested in talking about the latest updates that Zoom has come out with. One thing, of course, when we schedule a meeting or a conference, please make sure you set a password and also enable waiting room so that security wise we are safe. These are the updates. The latest version of Zoom has this feature where it allows you to choose the level of suppression in the background noise. If you go to the audio settings, it has auto, low, medium, high. We can choose the level of suppression we need in the background noise. If we are in a very noisy place, we can go along with it. And also the best part is they have also introduced another feature where we can share slides, where the slide becomes a virtual background, and in front of that the subject speaks. So these are some of the latest updates on Zoom. Coming to video settings, this is since all of us know, most of us today are performing artists. We come from the fields of music and dance. This particularly helps dancers when they are teaching through Zoom. On the video settings, there's something called Mirror My Video. If we click this, if we enable this, what happens is we will be able to watch ourselves, our window, in the mirrored way. For example, let's say I'm teaching my students hand movements in Kathak. So I do this. So if I want my students to raise their right hand, I will be doing my left hand. Yeah, and I mirror them basically. Now, if I enable this mirror option on Zoom on the video settings, the way I see myself in the video is mirrored. Why this is helpful? Basically, because if I see myself, as the teacher sees themselves doing the other way, it might get confusing. Of course, this doesn't change anything for the students. It just remains the same. Yeah. So this is just for the teacher. The teacher gets a little more comfortable. Of course, if you don't want to watch yourself, that's another thing altogether. Yeah. So this is why this video setting is an important aspect, especially when we are teaching. Screen share. This is a great tool that all the video conferencing platforms offer today. How do we best use this in our teaching modules? So today, especially when I'm talking about teaching modules, we will be speaking about restructuring the way we teach, the way we are communicating in class, and how can we use the tools that are there in the conferencing platform to effectively communicate with the students. So we have the share screen option and also record. So it helps us record our sessions, at the same time helps us show documents, slides, etc. through the share screen. When we do that, when we go to share screen, all of these the windows that were open appear. We can share any of the windows with the class. And one thing to remember, since all of us are performing artists, here we need to enable share computer sound and optimize screen sharing for video clip. This becomes important because many times we will be sharing media in the classroom. So some videos and audio clips might be shared. So this is an important tool so that the right optimization happens. And once we do this, once we share, it also it becomes an important tool for us to share lesson notes for the class. So this again. In a physical class, we might sometimes dictate and students write. All of this would happen. Now we can restructure it. These documents can be kept online and in a digital format, and they can be shared live during the class. An example of this is here. So this is a lesson from a harmonica workshop that I have chosen here to show. Here you can see that the Sahitya, the lyric, is written in red font, while the swaras are written in black font. It's very clear. Students will be easily able to see this and play based on the instructions given by the teacher. It's an example that we can follow. So we can create such notes. This way we are able to restructure our teaching methodology and we are able to communicate in an effective way. Going further, sometimes it so happens that in our classrooms, we might not have prepared a document like this, and we want to teach something impromptu. So I'll just take an example of a dance class, a dance lesson now. So for that, what can be used is a whiteboard. So if we click on this whiteboard and share, so this particular window appears, and there are many various options here. Text, drawing tools, all of this is available. Let's say I have decided to teach a Tihai in class, and here is an example. And quickly I can type the Tihai down so that the students can also watch it and recite along and learn the sequence. So these are some of the tools that are very interesting and we can be used in an effective way, especially while teaching. So this is with respect to Zoom. Another app that is very popular is Microsoft Teams. Again, this particularly I feel is more helpful for institutions. Let's say an institution runs multiple classes. An arts institution is running classes for music, dance, painting, guitar, keyboard, etc. On Teams, we can create separate channels for each of these classes, and under each of these channels, we can create further subdivisions like basic, intermediate, advanced, so on and so forth. And access can be given to teachers, particularly for those channels. So that way, all the data is collated and it's all in place in the same video conferencing platform. This also gives the organization enough scope to assess and analyze the way classes are functioning. So like you see, I've just given a example here. It says Kathak JP Nagar. Under that, there is advanced and intermediate, music beginner, so on and so forth. So these are some of the tools that that are helpful for arts organizations when they schedule their classes. And now we'll move on to the audio settings. it's very important for us to select a room with less echo. How do we know this? So we try out a small recording maybe on our phones, on our devices, and play it back. If we hear an echo, then we need to see how to navigate that, how to solve that problem, or maybe go to another space which is acoustically better. Yeah. So select a room with less echo, away from, and also definitely away from road and any other source of constant noise. Then how do we manage, navigate this echo issue? The best way it can be done in our homes and studio spaces would be to have non-reflective surfaces around the device. So this is exactly what a professional studio would also do, right? We generally see wooden panels or foam, foam sheets placed around. So that's how they control. If it's our home that we're talking about, cushions and bed sheets become very good tools, non-reflective, that can be placed around the device, and the experience is much enhanced. I'm just playing a example here. So there are two tracks, and you will be able to make out the difference between them. So that was the first example, and the same set of bowls set in another space, and it sounds like this. Okay. So I'm going to be coming in and out of this presentation. The reason being, now we have heard two different audio tracks. The first one was recorded in my house in a room where the echo was much more. Acoustics were not great. Then the second was recorded in this very space where I'm sitting right now, and the sound quality immediately gets better. It's basically because of the way the room is structured. Now, going further, I'll reset the same bowl right now, and you can also make out a difference further. So it goes like this. You might have noticed the sound quality is much different, even though I'm still sitting in the same room. The reason being, I'm right now using a mic. So this is what this is how the acoustics play in a room, and how a little improvement with the way we are using a device makes a lot of difference in the output of sound. This is particularly helpful for all musicians and dancers. Sound audio is such an important aspect in all our presentations, in our teaching methodology, in our teaching modules. So we really need to keep this in mind, especially when we are running online classes from our homes or from our institutions, studio spaces. So I'll continue with my presentation now again. So the next part is the lighting. These are some of the elements that are important. First point is face the light or light the face. One of the two has to happen. And no backlight, which means there should be no source of light behind the subject. If we are using natural light, we need to see which side which side we are facing, if it's the east or the west, so that, and which time of the day that we are shooting. And then utilizing household effective lights effectively, we might have lampshades that can be turned around and used as focus lights, and we can get an effective output. And going further, the use of professionals, we will talk about it. Now here is an example of two things. Both the pictures taken exactly in the same space. On the first picture, the picture to the left, we see that there is a window behind, and there is some light leakage from there. You immediately see that the clarity is not great in comparison with the picture on the right. Here, a curtain has been placed, and that light source has been blocked, and you immediately see the subject is well lit. So these are some things that we need to keep in mind, especially when we are placing ourselves. Things to be again kept in mind. You might not have a light source at the back, but in case, let's say there is a mirror at the back, we should be we should make sure that the mirror does not reflect the light from the front. We should basically ensure that in the frame there is no light source right behind the subject. This is just to enhance clarity. Now going further, the digital spaces, that we use to perform and host events. All of us are familiar with all of these platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and some lesser known platforms like Play2Me, Vimeo, Patreon, Shale. These are some of the platforms. And again, what could be done in each of these? We know that on FB we can post, we can create stories, go live, and also premiere videos. On Instagram, we can create stories and also put out our content on IGTV. YouTube, we can premiere and post. Vimeo, similarly, we can premiere and post. Play2Me, it's a digital concert platform. Chalet is again a venue space, and also they have an OTT. We will speak about all of these later also. And Patreon is a subscription based platform where artists can put out content and that can be monetized in a tier based system. Similarly, Jixi is also a similar platform where different tiers can be created, content can be put out, and so on and so forth. Now the first thing that we'll be speaking about is when we go live, especially on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube. Many of us have been doing it. How can we do it effectively? Again, we are going to be doing this in two stages. One is how we can go live using our phone as a device in the best possible way. Of course, that is something that I would not suggest at all. That's not the best way to do it. We need there are better ways which we will speak about ahead. But first, the checklist to go live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. First of all, if you are using a phone, please make sure that the phone is in landscape mode, which means the phone needs to be horizontally placed. The sole reason being the way generally arts is perceived. The proscenium theater is always in landscape mode. Yeah, we don't see a vertical theater unless it's an experimental theater, right? Generally, most of the work in normal circumstances, it's best viewed in landscape mode. So, which is why the phone needs to be kept in landscape mode. And also, especially when we are going live on Facebook, it's always important to keep the auto rotate on before going live. When we keep the auto rotate on, obviously all the contents start showing up in the horizontal fashion. And then when we go live, the comments will appear from down to up and not sideways. I see this happening with many streams that are being put out, and it might be lack of awareness. But if you're able to do this, the entire stream happens in a much more effective way, and we won't have this trouble of looking at the comments, sideways. So that's one thing. And definitely, if in case we are using the phone to go live, to use the back camera. For obvious reasons, the back camera is better in terms of resolution than the front camera. Some of you might ask me, in case if I'm using the back camera, I won't be able to read the comments. But that's fine. You can always ask a person to stand behind the camera and take their assistance in reading the comments and then reacting to it. But definitely to use the back camera and wipe the camera lens. Again, it's an important point. This is something that I learned out of experience. Phone is a device that we generally you keep in our pockets, bags, and we are not very conscious about wiping the camera lens on the phone before we use. It's not like a regular camera, like a DSLR camera. There we generally keep the lens cap on, then we wipe the lens, clean the lens, then we use it. Whereas with phone, that's not something that we do out of habit. But if we are going live using the phone, we definitely have to wipe the camera lens, because there'll be so many dust particles and fingerprints and all of this. This might hamper the way the output comes on the stream. And to plan an opening slide and ambience music, this is something we all do, right, in our performances, whether it is music, dance, any performing arts. As the audiences are entering an auditorium, there's generally branding that is put out on the stage, and there is some ambient music that is played till the audience is settled down, and then the show begins. So we can create a similar experience for virtual performances, virtual showcases as well. It's very simple. We just create this one slide, maybe the invite itself that is played, and then some music is being played and the backdrop, and then the show itself begins. So this also gives audience to settle down, and it gives you, the performer, to gives you enough time for you to share the link, because you would have started it, let's say, a couple of minutes before the actual time, and by then you can share it on WhatsApp groups and other fora, so that more and more people join the stream. And switching off comments, this is definitely important when we are going live on Instagram stories. Again, on Instagram stories, we don't have this option. Even if we auto rotate on Instagram, the comments still come sideways itself. They have not enabled that feature on Instagram stories yet. But what could be done is the comments can be switched off. This way, for another audience member who might not want to read the comments, we are making it helpful. Always we can, between sequences or maybe at the end of the show, the comment section can be turned on and an interaction can happen. The artist can interact with the audiences, so that is possible. Another thing, point definitely is to be, to be cognizant about the copyrights. So much content is being put out on social media platforms today. Are we aware of our copyrights, problems, issues, the music that is being played? If you are a band, are we okay, and can we play certain numbers? About sometime in July, IPRS gave this, came out with this notifications saying any concert being performed online comes under IPRS. Of course, within about 15 days later, they restructured that and they said till the pandemic gets over, they're not really looking at it uh, in depth. But in future, it is going to become an issue. So we need to consider these things as well. If that is the case, do we need to take a license? Do we need to purchase a license from such organizations? If you are a band, if you are a music band, and if we are a dance company, if someone is a dancer, presenting their performance online, coming to copyrights of that particular track, does the person have copyrights to use it, not just for the performance but also to stream it online? Because what goes online is going to stay there for posterity unless it is deleted by the organizer or by yourself, right? So one needs to consider these things. At a click of a button, these things can be downloaded, and there are chances that they can be misused. So these are something that we need to be aware of, so that we can take a conscious decision about how we want to put out content in the in social media pages. And definitely to insist and have a full tech rehearsal at least one day in advance. So I have also written here, preferably at the same time. One might wonder why. It's very simple. If let's say we have planned a show at about 3 p.m., 3 in the afternoon. It so happens that generally, if you are going live from home or from a studio space, you might have natural light seeping in through windows. How are we going to manage that? If we, let's say, rehearse the previous day at 7 or 8 in the night, we might never be able to understand, gauge how natural light is going to play. So it's always important that we rehearse at the same time the previous day. Also, why 24 hours? In case there is something that needs to be done. Maybe you want to buy a device, rent out a device. You see something's not working technically. You give yourself time, one day's time to sort that out. So that's one thing. And also, broad bandwidth wise, it so happens that in each locality, the bandwidth behaves differently at different points of time in the day. So this will also give us an idea of how the bandwidth is behaving at that point in our locality, and based on that, we can modify and just so that the entire activity is foolproof to the best extent possible. Yeah. So definitely to have a complete tech rehearsal for all performances that are being streamed online. It is disheartening when many artists put out information saying they are going live at this particular time, and then we also get a message saying, due to technical issues, this performance, this program is being postponed, getting delayed and all that. So to the best possible extent, we can avoid it. Now, do we need to really go live then and there for our performances on social media? Not really. There are other options as well. So that is what we're going to be discussing next. We can premiere videos on Facebook and YouTube. So on Facebook, there's something called a creator studio, and on publishing tools, you get this option called creator studio. Once we get into that, there's an option to upload videos, and once the videos are uploaded, we can also upload playlists. Yeah. And once the videos are uploaded, here is an example, a screenshot of a video getting uploaded here. And then you get an option where it says, do you want to premiere it, or do you want to make it as a video post? In case we want to premiere, there are two options. We can premiere it then and there, or we can schedule a premiere. we can choose the date and time when we want this to be premiered, and the video gets uploaded, and Facebook does the job for you at that particular time and date. But for this, we need to keep the video ready. So which means the performance needs to be shot, produced, edited. The entire file needs to be ready, and it can be uploaded. So this way, we can also inform more and more people, and they can all watch the stream, and it's a much better experience. Chances of things going wrong are much lesser in something like this. Similarly, on YouTube, videos can be premiered. So when we get this option, upload videos, and then we give the details of the video, and then there's an option. It says save or publish or schedule it. Similarly, so we can schedule it and premiere on YouTube. Now, coming to the next question. Now we know that we don't really have to go live then and there for all our performances, for all our interactions online. It can be recorded, produced, and then streamed. So then that takes us to the question of content creation. I'm going to be speaking about three broad categories here: video editing softwares, audio editing softwares, and conversion softwares that help converting files. With respect to audio, these are some of the softwares that many of us are comfortable with. This again is helpful for both musicians and dancers. Audacity is one of the freely available softwares, very easy to use, but it's good for basic work. But if you are creating in detailed work, then softwares like Ableton Live, Cubase, Pro Tools are great. Some of us might already be using it, and if not, we can always get the trial version. Once we are comfortable, we can buy we can subscribe to these softwares and then start using them. Again, the price ranges vary from what is the kind of which version we want to use, and what are the plugins that we want in each of these software. Again, each of this topic is in depth. I'm not going to be going in depth in any of these software. This is just an awareness creation, just so that all of us know these are some of the tools and we can use them. Again, because the situation today is we have to produce content. That's where we are, and these tools, of course, we can definitely outsource them, get it done. But always, as artists, it's good to have awareness and knowledge in all of this, so that we can create our own content, or if not, we can at least speak to the technician and get the content out in the best possible way that we want it to be put out, showcased. Coming to video editing softwares, DaVinci Resolve is the first logo that we are looking at. The best part about DaVinci Resolve, it's a freely available software. Okay, so we can go to Blackmagic Design, that's a website, we can download DaVinci Resolve. The majority of the features come in the freely available version itself. But then if you want to purchase it, then there are much more features which professional studios use, and that costs roughly about 28,000 rupees. But most of the work can be handled in the free version itself on Resolve, and they have fantastic tools for color correction, audio balancing, and editing options in it. One of the best software that I've been using from the last few months, a couple of years now. Pinnacle Studio. This is again one of the softwares that I really like. I've been using this software for almost close to 8 to 10 years now. Fantastic options. The latest version itself costs about 8 to 8,500. So it is easy on the pocket in comparison with any other software, and very, very user friendly. And of course, we do have Adobe's Premiere Pro, a top-notch software. Many professional studios use this, and if you are using it, if you are going to be subscribing to this, it comes, the Creative Cloud itself, the package comes at about 4,300 a month that one can purchase. So these are some of the video editing softwares that are very, very good, easy to use. And also the best part about all this is once we just need to download them and start playing around with it. As we work more and more, we get comfortable, and there are enough and more YouTube instructional videos that are very good for each and every feature in all of these software. It's just that little bit of time and effort that we need to put in to master these softwares. And coming to conversions, most of us artists have recorded content from several years, and as the technology is getting updated, these files need to be converted to the latest formats, and we need to use these conversion softwares. Movavi is a software that I like. Similarly, FreeMake is also good. Format Factory is a software that I came across very recently. Very, very helpful. Especially, I was impressed with the software for this one reason. When we just want to merge two video files, let's say they're long in duration. If we take it to an editing software like Studio or a Premiere Pro or a DaVinci Resolve, it takes so much more time because the entire file has to get rendered and then the output is delivered. Whereas with Format Factory, you put those two files, you say merge, and within seconds, the entire file gets merged and you get the product out. It's amazing, especially when you want to do these little tweaks to your videos. So these three categories of software, which are very helpful in all kinds of content creation that we are using in today's times. Now, going further, streaming. So one, we know that we have softwares to create content. We also know that we can go live from our phones directly on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Then we also know that we can premiere. To premiere, we need to create content. Now, going one step further, this is we are going to be talking about streaming using OBS, Open Broadcaster Software. The best part about this is it's a freely available software. So we can just download this from the official website, and we can do phenomenal work using OBS. There are also options to record. So multicam recording can happen using the software. So this acts like a mixer, like a video mixer as well. And live mixing is possible. Live mixing along with animations is possible. And it supports multiple audio and video formats. And it also helps you stream on different platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Restream, and other custom pages, other custom streaming software. What we'll be doing right now is I'll be taking you all on a live demo of using OBS. So this is to show you how easy it is and how we can utilize the tools that are available in OBS to create content that has a very professional feel when we stream. So here I am. Okay. I just if one of you can actually send me a message on the chat box saying you can see what is happening on my screen, that will help me. So I'm just waiting for a message from one of you so that I know that you're able to watch my window screen. Yes, you can view it. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. So this is OBS. And here on the right side, you see tools like start streaming, start recording, studio mode, settings, and exit. So this is where we really have to be, we are going to be exploring the options. Just a second. Yes, okay, great. So here, what we can do is there are two sections to this. There is something called scenes on the left hand side, and then there's something called sources. So we can create multiple scenes, and in each of the scenes, we can create multiple sources from where we want to get content and stream through OBS. So here on the sources we add, and here you can see there are different kinds of sources that we can put into the software. Audio input capture, audio output capture. So these are helpful when we are when a music band is playing. Let's say there are 3-4 people playing together, and these different mic inputs can come in together, and this software acts as a mixer. So there are equalizers, so that way you are able to send balanced audio into the stream. And then there are browsers, color source, display capture, so on and so forth. Then we have image, where we can put in slides, images, logos, etc. I'll speak about that. And now I would like to show you media source. This is, let's say, we have a ready video that we want to stream. So we click on media source, we say okay, and we browse, select the location from where we want to pick it up. So I have a example here. It's a timer. So I say okay, and the timer appears here. Yeah, and you can also see that the audio is moving up and down. Okay, you can visualize this. Um, that's how the video appears here. Now let's say I want to take this and stream it on Facebook or YouTube. It's very simple. What I need to do is go to settings, and then there is a stream option here, and I need to get something called stream key. And the Facebook page opens, and I say create live stream, and that will take me to the live producer. And here there are options which says share to your timeline, share to a page you manage, or share in a group. So let's say I want to share the content on a page that I manage. So I click on this, and I can select a page that I want to stream on. So I'm just taking this test page for now. Please note this is the order we need to follow, because once we select these, then we come to the right hand side of the screen, and we collect and we copy the stream key. So we copy this and then go back to OBS and paste the stream key here and say okay. Now when I say start streaming, whatever appears here on the screen will appear on the Facebook page. So if you see here, it says, yeah, you can see this, the same video is appearing here. And now when I say go live, I say go live, and this is actually right now live on my Facebook page. You will also see the button, live button there. Okay, as you see, you can see the live button here, and the video is running. Now let's say I go back to OBS and I say I want to add a logo on top of this. Then I go to plus and image, add an image. I say okay, and browse, select the image, and I say okay, and I can also resize it. So I can make it small, big, and I can take it to any corner of the screen. Let's say I want it on the right top corner, I place it here. And then if I go back to the stream, you can see whatever was being done there is being shown here. Yeah, and finally the logo will appear there. So this was being done live. Let's say you've already created these templates. It's much more easier. These transitions are also not seen. It just appears. So you can have running text, logos, images, a capture of another window. Let's say there's a Zoom meeting happening and you want to run the Zoom meeting through OBS. All that is possible. So this way OBS gives lot more flexibility and lot many more options for us to be able to stream multiple windows and different kinds of content being put together. So this is an example, and let me end the live here and come back to OBS to show you some more options. And here we have, let's say we are showing an image slideshow. That's also possible. Or if you want to create text, say okay, and we can just type the text here, hello, and that will appear immediately. And font and size, all of this can be changed. And if I don't want to stream a particular video, I can just click on this and the video stops immediately. So on and so forth. So there are a lot of options, especially on OBS. And the best part is we can also send it to softwares like Restream, through which we can send it to multiple pages simultaneously. So these are some of the options. And also if we download Streamlabs OBS, they also come with some more templates, readily available templates on which our content can be played. The reason I'm talking about all of this is just to, yeah, let me stop this. Yeah, just to make you all aware that there are so many more options to put out produced content live on the social media pages. It's only up to us how we want to use all of this. Yeah. Then going further, I'll continue with my presentation now. So this is really with OBS, so many more options available. So please download this and try it out. And not just this, there are other softwares like this as well. But why I'm speaking about OBS in particular is because it is a freely available software and it is robust. Some of the biggest shows are actually run using OBS. No, I can give you an example. Software, some of the streaming softwares that are used for these big events. We were all witness to a big event that happened in India early in May, where some of the best singers from Bollywood and different, uh, you know, composers and all of them came together, and they created a 3.5 hour long concert through which they also raised funds for COVID relief, and it was all seamless. It happened one after the other. So how it was possible is they all of the video was shot well in advance. They were all put together, and then it was streamed live on Facebook using a software like OBS. So this is how good content, professionally curated content can be live streamed. So going further, we will now talk about running conferences and conversations online. There are so many of these conferences that are happening right now in the art space. The best two options that I have worked on and I was very comfortable was StreamYard and Zoom. Zoom, if you have a paid account, the meeting can be sent live on Facebook or YouTube, so that's a possibility. Similarly, there's another option which is StreamYard. From again on the paid account of StreamYard, the paid account costs about $20 a month. That is a subscription that they charge. On StreamYard, what happens is it's a browser-based application. A link can be created and sent to the panelists, the speakers. Up to 10 can be sent in the paid version. The panelists come on board, and the moderator, the person who's running StreamYard, can let the panelists in at different points in time. That's one thing. And also play pre-recorded content, and there are different layouts as well. So here's how it looks. I'm just giving an example, a screenshot of, let's say if there are two people coming on StreamYard, they can be placed on equal sized screens, or there are other layouts where the person who's speaking can be highlighted and others are seen on the sidelines. And also logos can be added. The organization's logos can be incorporated in this in the stream. Going further, the names of the panelists can also appear, and running scroll text can also appear. So let's say the text can talk about what is the like here an example, embracing this space and online workshop. If that's what the topic is about, that can scroll, or maybe a call to donate can also scroll throughout. So all of this can be incorporated on StreamYard. So they have something called banners on which we can type the content, and that appears. And once it's streamed, the comments that appear on the Facebook page also appears on StreamYard, and the moderator can choose the comments that can appear here on the application itself, so that the panelists can look at it and react to the comments and maybe answer the questions. So all these are some of the options that StreamYard has, especially for conferences. Going further, setting up, we'll talk about the digital auditorium. The name might sound fancy, a digital auditorium, but actually it is a workstation for an today need to work from our homes or studio spaces, and how do we convert that into a digital auditorium is what the following slides we will be discussing. First of all, how to choose a digital auditorium. Let's say we have a performance and we choose to go to a professional studio space, and we stream the entire performance from there. One, the space availability. This depends on how big our ensemble is. If it's if it's a solo singer, an instrumentalist, or maybe a band, 3-4 member band, or maybe a bigger band, or if it's a ensemble work in dance, how many members in the dance troupe. So that's something that we need to consider for the space. Then definitely the space needs to have professional lights, professional sound equipment, very good streaming facilities, an informed tech crew, and even there insist on tech rehearsals. Why an informed tech crew? Because they need to be updated about what are all the things that are there in today's times, how to use the different streaming softwares, and how to manage the lag, all of this, we need to have an informed tech crew. And again, there it's important that we do our tech rehearsals for just for one reason, so that our performance, our streaming is foolproof to the best possible extent. One is to go to a professional studio. Many of the auditoria today have converted themselves into digital auditorium, so we can use the services. And there are other studio spaces, floors. Video shooting floors have converted themselves into digital auditoria today for artists, for performing arts. They can be used. On the other hand, if we are going to convert our own living room space into a digital auditorium, what are the things that we need for that in particular? So that's something that we will discuss going ahead. Setting up a digital auditorium. So this is where we are. We need a strong system. If it's a desktop or laptop, at least an 8 GB RAM minimum. And a good GPU, latest processor always helps. And then if it's, when I'm talking about Wi-Fi connectivity, what is a good Wi-Fi? At least 100 Mbps. So that is the least that we need, especially when we're talking about this kind of streaming and doing multiple video conferencing and using different softwares to stream, conduct classes, go live, all of this. So at least 100 Mbps. And always to use the LAN cable directly to the device, and to avoid Wi-Fi modem. Two reasons to this. One, the LAN cable is much more stable. Through the Wi-Fi modem, sometimes the bandwidth is reduced. So it's always good to use the LAN cable directly, and always to have a reliable network. So which is a reliable network? This is a very subjective thing. It depends from locality to locality. Maybe in the place that I am in, if ACT, I'm just taking an example here. If ACT is working great, both in terms of bandwidth as well as in terms of service. Let's say there's a cable cut. I need to get their service done immediately. In my locality, it is great. Maybe it's not great in the 2 roads away from here. Maybe you need to look at another service provider. So it's a very subjective thing. We need to do some research and find out which is best for the place from where we are streaming and working out of, and then choose the network accordingly. And definitely to have dongle as a backup for whatever reason. If Wi-Fi is not working, if the LAN cable is not working, it's always good to have a dongle as backup so that we can immediately switch over. Coming to lights, whether it is a music performance or a dance performance, we need to have good lights. We initially spoke about utilizing lights, lampshades and other lights at home, and how we can use it in an effective way, like looking toward, like facing the light, or making sure that the light faces us. Those are some of the things. But when we're talking about professionally curated content being created, then we need professional lights. So we need, especially for video, we need continuous lights. And what are the kinds of lights? RGB, which is our red, green, blue, the color washes, warm white and white. These are some things. And also I've particularly mentioned LED lights because the power consumption is much lesser, and they also have a longer battery, longer bulb life. So, and they take very less power. So based on these things, we also need to gauge the power backup that is needed for that space. In case there's a power failure, we definitely need power backup. And what is the amount of power backup that's needed? It's based on all of this, all of the equipment that is there in this space. Sound. We need some of the tools like audio interface, speakers, monitors, different kinds of mics based on the requirement, so that we are able to send balanced audio. Coming to the audio interface, the sound card. The reason I'm speaking about this is our laptops, phones, etc. are not really meant to record our music to be streamed live. Okay, that is not the purpose of it at all. It is just to speak on calls. That's really the way these devices have been created on these devices. But the moment we use a sound card, we are able to put out a much better audio output. This is also for dancers, not just for streaming, even in physical theaters. When we use our laptops and we generally connect our audio jacks, right? That's how the music is being played to the speakers in the auditorium. That's really not the best way to do it. That's because audio jack is meant only for the headphone. So it compresses the sound and all the tracks and sends only that kind of signal. It's not really good to use it for amplified speakers, amplified sound or sound output. Sound card solves that issue. This is something that I have been told by music composers, sound engineers, and it's a really important thing. If you are a band, it depends on how many members are there. That will give the number of inputs we need in the sound card. So we can go with a single input sound card to a multi-channel, 16, 32, 64, so on. So we can choose a sound card and the mixer based on that. And of course, there are much more complicated things like preamps and all that. I'm not getting into that kind of detailing yet. I'm talking about going live, creating content from our studio spaces. Even to do all those things, we definitely need things like speakers, sound cards, and mics, different kinds of mics. Let's say if it's a talk show, let's say we are running a conference, a talk show, a mic like this would be good enough, a lapel mic. Yeah. On the other hand, no, let's say we are doing a performance, music performance, then that needs different kinds of mics. If it's SM58, 57, and so on and so forth, AKG and all of that. And if it's a recording studio, that's again a different ballgame altogether. Even for dance performances, let's say a Kathak artist, maybe a classical dancers, if they want to make sure the footwork is heard well, they need to use foot mics. In many of the streams today, we see that the audio and the audio of the sound level of the track and the sound level of the footwork is not really well balanced. That's because when the footwork is louder, the automatically on the stream we hear the track in a very low volume. That is because all of this is being captured by the phone device, the phone or maybe the laptop. That's not really the best way to do this. So it's always good to have mics and have a sound card, and then use a software like OBS so that you can balance the sound output and then send it to the stream. So this is with respect to running our digital auditorium vis-a-vis our workstation, a workstation for a performing artist. And like I mentioned this in the beginning itself, we might create fantastic content. The art might be great, but finally it's all getting captured through the camera lens. So we need to choose what kind of cameras we need. There are different kinds of cameras. We all know that. From GoPro, the smallest, small GoPro, which can give fantastic output, to phone gimbals where we can create moving shots. Of course, our DSLRs and handycams and so on and so forth. All that can be used. So also, if you remember in my first slide, I had kept phone as the last priority, but phone can be used as a peripheral device for our content creation. So today, some of our smartphones have such good cameras, so we can use them as just as a camera. How do we use them? We connect the phone itself to capture the imagery and send it through a stream. That is possible. And also, if we use DSLR and other cameras for live streaming, we need to have a device called a capture card. So we connect the capture card to the camera and the capture card to the laptop, and on a software like OBS, that will read the capture card, and whatever is being captured from the camera appears on OBS, and that can be live streamed. So we get good resolution imagery that is being captured and sent on the stream. And also, like I mentioned, OBS helps in mixing as well. So let's say there are 2-3 cameras that we are using for a shoot, and we connect them all through the capture card on the software. We can mix them live as it is being recorded or maybe streamed. That's a possibility too. There's another device that you can see an image here. This is called an Atom Mini. I know this is a device created by Blackmagic Design. Basically, there's a mixer. Multiple video inputs can come into it, and we can mix it live, and that can be connected to our laptop. Software like OBS recognizes that, and we can stream it through that. That's one possibility, and this costs about 26,000 Atom Mini. And Atom Mini Pro, which is an advanced device that costs around 50,000. And with that, there is also an option to connect the Ethernet cable, the LAN cable, and we don't need a laptop or an OBS. It can be streamed directly from the device itself. So these are some of the options. So the range is wide and varied, from as low as 1,500, 2,000 rupees to several lakhs. We can choose what device we need depending upon our requirement and the budget. So yeah, like I told, these are the devices that aid us in making films. And this is a fantastic software that I discovered very at the beginning of the lockdown. We can use our phone as a camera, as a web camera. So you can see an image here. This is exactly how I have set it up today. Uh, you use an app called DroidCam. It's available both in the Play Store as well as for Mac, for iPhones. So we download the app on the phone. We also download the client app on the system, on the laptop, and we can connect through Wi-Fi or through a cable. Whatever is being captured on the phone camera appears on the screen. So for our Zoom meetings, for our classes, especially, and even maybe for small performances and going live for conferences, etc. If you are a speaker, especially this helps. So we set up the tripod and the phone, and then we using DroidCam we connect it. So basically, the phone camera acts as a webcam for the stream. Like I told you, the phone camera is definitely much better than the laptop camera. So I just want to give you a demo here. So I'm going to stop the stream, stop the share. So here you can see, right now I'm using my phone, and through DroidCam, I'm streaming this particular video on this webinar. So let's say I change this. I use my laptop's integrated webcam. This is how the image looks. I'm sure you can make out there's a big difference in the way the image appears, right? This is a little more, although I'm using a high-end laptop, still the webcam of a laptop just does so much, whereas the phone does a better job. Of course, better than that, something that is always uh, that I always would recommend would be to use a professional camera like a Handycam or a DSLR, connect it through a capture card, and then stream on Zoom or Facebook or any of these platforms. So yeah, I'm back to my DroidCam here. So this is the difference that these apps make. Again, the best part about DroidCam is it's not a very expensive app. It costs about 400 rupees. It's a one-time fee that we pay. It costs about 400, but really does the job to a large extent. So this is about DroidCam. Going further, here is an image of my home studio. Like you see, I have a continuous light here, and also there's a tripod for phone, and I have my other audio devices kept. It's a small space, but I can perform, conduct classes, do all of this with a professional setup. So just an example of how it's run. Also, the light that the reason I put this picture is this particular light that you can see in the image. It's a continuous light. It also has cutters. Me being a dancer, I definitely would like to create these shafts where I can make the shaft smaller, bigger, and also this particular light comes with a fader, so I can create these fade in, fade out in the beginning and end of the sequences. So that way this helps. So there are many options available, both online and in stores. Lights starting from as low as 1,500 rupees, going on till about 15 to 18k, 20k per light. Again, it depends on what is the kind of budget we have and what is the requirement in the space that we are working out of. This particular light cost me about 3,500 along with the stand. So this is an example here. Coming to the next part, monetization. With with the digital space opening out our reach, the entire world is our audience. The entire world is an opportunity for us to reach. That also means there is a lot of competition, and it also means we need to create modules specifically designed for the digital medium. So we need to create workshops and courses designed specifically for the digital medium, so that the communication is effective and it interests people to come and enroll themselves into these modules. uh, Using aids like how different is it. I'm not talking about the art form itself, I'm just talking about its presentation. How differently can the content be created, presented, maybe pre-recorded, and if it is live, how are we going to use live along with pre-recorded aid, creating these small modules that go as aids that help students learn better. So as artists, we are all creative people, so we need to really think on those lines as well and create our workshop and course modules. Then when it comes to performances, performing on platforms like Book My Show, Play2Me, YouTube. These are all some of the platforms where we can monetize our work. Book My Show, especially after the pandemic started, they have created this platform, digital concert platform, where we can purchase the space as an artist, set up the entire thing, and we can ticket it. People can buy tickets, and the event happens on their platform. So that's a possibility. Similarly, Chalet is a company that has an OTT specifically designed for Indian performing arts. So that's also a place that we can explore. Of course, YouTube is a long game. Constantly we need to put content out there, and we are able to monetize after a certain extent. So we will speak about this in detail in my next slide. Also, other ways of monetizing is definitely to use the donate button on Facebook, and subscription models on platforms like Patreon, Jixi, and also crowdfunding through dedicated platforms. So all these are some of the options. So we can utilize them, and then creating curated content for the camera with professional output. This really is the way forward. If we are able to create curated content with professional devices, then we are able to reach a wider audience. If we are able to reach a wider audience, then automatically there is better inflow, money inflow, and better visibility. With better money inflow, we'll be able to put in that money and create much better curated content. So it's basically a cycle. So we really need to constantly look at how we can work all of these platforms in our favor as performing artists. So here are options. Like Chalet is a platform, like I told you. They also help in ticketing shows. They've been doing this even before the pandemic. Generally, the way it works with Chalet is they take a 10% on the ticket sales, and if you want them to partner for promotions, then it's a one-time fee or a 70/30 based on we can speak to them depending upon the event that we are producing. Their OTT platform, they are very strict about having only Indian performing arts on their OTT platform. Till very recently, they would put out only content that were produced by them, but now they have also started reaching out to other producers. And if it is of a certain standard in terms of technicality, then they also allow producers to put their content on the OTT platform, and the revenue subscription is a subscription-based model, and revenues based on the time viewed. That's how they do it. Book My Show, as we have spoken about it just now, they generally take a 12% commission on ticket sales, and they also charge a 1,000 rupee hosting fee. Patreon is again a subscription based model. Content can be put out based on different tiers. Patrons subscribe to a particular tier, pay the money, and they get access to that kind of content that is being put out. It's again a commission based system that they have. That's how Patreon charges the artists. And YouTube, of course, with YouTube, one needs to have at least 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 views in the last 12 months for a channel to be part of YouTube partner program. Once the channel becomes part of the YouTube partner program, the ad account can be connected to the channel, and per view, the content can be monetized, and also monetization can happen through affiliate product sales and all of those channels as well. So of course, it's a long game, and we have to be continuously at it, constantly put out content. And like so many of us know, there are many artists, many YouTubers who are doing really well, but of course that's happened over a long period of time, effort being put over a long period of time. Not just this, there are so many other platforms out there. These are some of the things that I have mentioned here that I came across: Crowdcast, Viewsy, Sangeet Sabha, Vibrance, Jixi, Art Square Feed. So many platforms for artists, performing artists, to put content and also reach a wider audience base and benefit out of it monetarily as well, along with visibility. Now we'll come to a few guidelines. So these are some things that we can keep in mind. Let's say we are running a conference. These are some of the guidelines. More or less all the points are things. It's like a recap of what we have already discussed. Kindly keep the device fully charged. So this is something that we can in advance tell the participants of the conference, the panelists in the conference. so that they are well aware and they are prepared. So you can always ask them to keep the device fully charged, be close to the Wi-Fi router so that there is no problems in terms of connectivity, and also request them to connect the LAN cable and not really to use the Wi-Fi router as far as possible, and also to keep the phone as backup so that they can switch over to the phone's hotspot in case there is an issue, and to use a headphone or earphone. This will help in reducing feedback, especially when 3-4 people or many people are speaking in a panel discussion. And you can ask the panelists to keep it in gallery view so that they can watch other panelists as well. Yeah, and to ensure that there is sufficient light spill on the face. So this we have discussed. So it's an important thing so that the subject is visible for the audiences. And in case there are some lights on the backdrop, you can always request them to turn it off. Again, this is why it's important that we do a tech check. We do a full tech rehearsal with all the panelists so everyone is comfortable and the event goes off smoothly. Also to request them to be on mute when the other speaker is presenting. Generally in a conference and a panel discussion, one speaker gets a longer duration, when it is their time to present. So it's ideal that the others are on mute mode so that there is no audio interference. And also going further, during the time when the interaction happens, when there's a Q&A amongst the panelists, we can't always be on mute. So they'll all be unmuted. If you can request them not to not to have words and sounds of acknowledgement. This is something all of us are quite used to, isn't it? We generally say yes, ha, and so on and so forth. Ideally, if it's not done, it's good, especially on video conferencing, because there is always this lag. Okay, and that lag will become a interference, and the experience might not be good for the audiences. Also, in video conferencing platforms like Zoom, there's an option to create breakout rooms. This is when we are having a larger conference, or even in classrooms when we want to create smaller batches among students. So breakout rooms can be utilized. And also timely alerts will be automatically sent. On the other side, these are some of the guidelines that can be sent to the students in a classroom. Definitely you can ask them to mute, keep them on mute when they log in. So in case a student gets delayed and they come late to class, they will not disturb the other members. So as a host, as a person who's creating the link, we can also do it, but it's also good to let the students know about it. And for the students, it's always advisable that we ask them to keep it on speaker view so that they're not distracted by looking at other students, other windows, and they are able to look at the teacher in a bigger window. Okay, so that the nuances, especially in performing arts, when we are teaching performing arts, the nuances are so important. All of us as teachers, and practitioners, we miss this, the look and feel, and how we'll be able to correct a student maybe in a physical class. But now on screen, we can use all these hacks. We can zoom in, zoom out, and also ask the student to keep it on speaker view so that the nuances are conveyed in the best possible way. And also you can definitely ask them to raise a hand or leave a note in the chat box for doubts and clarifications. So some of the things. And so yes, with this, I hope I have covered many aspects of conducting classes and performances online, streaming it. I hope this session has been helpful. All of us have been put into this situation overnight. Nobody really imagined that we would be able to we would be able to practice and conduct classes and perform only online for such a long duration for such a long duration. It has happened. It might have come as a surprise shock to so many of us, but it's only interesting, and for the way that there are so many possibilities, and we just need to adapt and adopt new practices so that we are able to convey in a much effective way and reach out to a larger audience base. So with this, I conclude my presentation, and I hope with this, all of us have embraced the digital space, and we will be able to make it our own going further. So thank you so much for being with me all this while. I'll now look at the chat box and take some questions. Okay, I have quite a few messages here. So let me see, and I'll try to answer as many as possible. Okay, so we have a question here. Okay, so there is a question here, Parvati, who says, "Can we use this with FB live streaming?" Yes, I think it was asked when I was speaking about OBS. Yes, it can be used for FB live streaming. Yes, it's a great tool to do that. Can you zoom? Okay, zoom screen up. Is OBS available for Mac as well? Yes, it is available for Mac. Okay, can you please suggest a few cost-effective capture cards? Again, with capture cards, it's a wide range. It starts anywhere from 6,000 to, it can go on. Even ATEM Mini or ATEM Mini Pro is acts like a capture card, so it can go on till 70, 80,000 or much more than that. But these are available online and in any of these shops which sell camera equipment. So yes, capture card is good, and we can find them in different price ranges. Okay, sometimes, okay, we have sometimes there is no sync between audio video. How to avoid it? Secondly, we prefer to mix video later when performances is in open space. What are the best practices? Okay, sync between audio video. This is basically the lag. Okay, many video conferencing platforms do have it. I have experienced this, especially while teaching a class on Google Meet. Of course, this was some time back. I'm sure they would have upgraded their system, the way the software functions. There is a lag. We can't really do much about it. We have to manage the lag, and especially in a class. So this is again example I was giving. Uh, let's say in a Katha class, we generally play the lehra. The teacher plays the lehra and also says the bowl. So one good thing is to make sure every person is on mute, every student is on mute. Otherwise, what happens is what is being said or played here reaches the other person a few seconds later, and that comes back into the stream, and we'll never get clarity. So we need to really manage this. And also, we can't have two windows, two people, trying to play music or perform a music piece simultaneously together on a Zoom call. That's basically because of lag. How can that be avoided? We have to record it much in advance, and then on an editing software, put it together and stream it. That's the best practice that I can see. And secondly, okay, if it's an open space, the best way to do this is to record the audio clip in a studio with professional equipment, get the audio ready, and then if you want to shoot the video part of it in an outdoor space, uh, just play it in the location on a Bluetooth speaker and enact the video, and then put it together on an editing software, and then use it to stream it on the social media pages. Some details of app discussor. Very informative. Thank you. Many of you have said the session was very informative. Thank you so much. Thank you for your feedback. Here we have a person saying, "Miss pinning down some details of apps." Uh, sure. You can always reach out to NCPA, and I'm sure I'll also share the list of apps that were mentioned today in the session, and you can get the details from them. And okay, somebody here says, "I'd like to have a recording of this piece." Uh, of course, NCPA has will be putting this out on their social media pages at a later date, and it will be accessible to many more people. So that way, it might be helpful. You mentioned the Zoom has some setting for music sessions. Zoom, okay, Zoom for music sessions. So I was mentioning that about the audio settings there. You can regulate the background noise. This is if you are using the device mic itself. On the other hand, let's say you're using a regular a mic or a label mic connected to a sound card, and the sound card is connected to the laptop, and Zoom is taking the audio from the sound card. Then you'll be able to balance the audio on the sound card itself. So that way, it is much better. That's a better way to send the audio signals. Any specific mic for singers? Again, it's a wide range. You know, SM58, AKG. There are so many more. One really needs to look into it, see what is best suited in terms of budget and the requirement. So I really suggest that you do some more research and speak to some sound engineers, some musicians. That'll give you a good, good. That'll help you in choosing a good mic. Generally, for vocal singing, SM58 is good in my experience. Sound card brands. Okay, sound cards. Focusrite is a good sound card. Sennheiser has a sound card. Behringer is a good sound card. So again, the range is wide and varied. It can start from as low as 4,000 to to much higher. Is it possible to stream on two platforms simultaneously, like Facebook and YouTube? Yes, it is possible. StreamYard lets you do that. Lets you stream on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. On the other hand, if you want to do something through OBS, then you can go to from your OBS, you can stream it on Restream. Restream, again, you have to subscribe to it, and Restream allows you to stream on multiple platforms. So it is possible. On the other hand, you can go further. If it's a custom platform that you want to stream on, you can also do it through an RTMP link. Can we present a play live, or should it be recorded, mixed, and then presented later? I didn't understand this question well. So can we present a play live, or should it be recorded, mixed, and then presented later? We can play something live. Okay, if I don't know if I'm if I've understood the question. The way I'm understanding this is, a video has been recorded. Yes, it can be played live through OBS. You will still see the live button on Facebook. Yes, that is possible. On the other hand, let's say if you are asking, can something be played live and can you record it? Yes, you can record it as well. You can record it on OBS. So you can stream and record simultaneously. That is possible. What are the devices needed to host a YouTube Insta live show? Devices needed to host a YouTube. Devices are basically the things that we have already discussed. These are the camera, the sound card, mics, a good laptop. These are the devices, and pretty much it should solve the issue. Specific brands, more than the brands, I would really look at the configuration. We have spoken about the configuration in the presentation already, so that's what it is really. For the videos to upload on Facebook, YouTube, what should be the file size? File size is not the problem at all. If it's a longer duration, the file size will be much higher. Definitely look at what resolution. 1080 HD is good, 4K is great. So ideally, especially if it's YouTube allows you to stream 4K videos, so which is great. But on Facebook, especially if you're going live and things like that, whatever might be the resolution, it reduces the resolution on Facebook, and 720p or 1080p is what comes out on Facebook. So that is also the reason why we need to create our videos at a much higher resolution, so that even when it is compressed by Facebook or Instagram, the quality is still bearable. Can you give details of monetization with Facebook? With Facebook monetization, I think you can. It's about visibility. You can, the donate button, all of that helps monetizing through Facebook. But I don't think there is an option to monetize it in terms of pay-per-view, like how we have on YouTube. At least in my knowledge, that's what I am aware of. Recording so that we can know, but yes, okay. Very. How about the donate button on Facebook? Yes, Facebook has this donate button. Just explore that. You need to register your organization, and then the donate button is enabled for that particular organization, and it can be done that way. So that's how it is done. How to tackle sound and, okay, I have addressed this already. It's audio and video sync. continuous lights you use in your home studio. You mentioned it's about 3,500, which affordable. The light that I showed you from my home studio, it is from it's called Simpex. That is the brand name of the brand. Which platform? I bought it from a store here in Bangalore, which also sells other camera equipment. I use Boya lapel mic, but it works only to record. How can it be? Boya can be used for live streaming as well. Boya mic is very helpful. In fact, what I'm using right now is also a Boya lapel mic. I'm sure since you're using it, you know that it's only an audio jack. It can be connected to the device directly, and it can be the content can be streamed live. It's very easy to use Boya mic. And also not just Boya, you can also use Bluetooth headset. There are other Bluetooth mics as well, so you don't even need to you don't need to struggle with the wires, the length of the wire and all that. So Bluetooth devices can also be used as mics. Please elaborate a bit. Theater play recordings, how can it be shot at best with good quality and minimum sources? Again, with recordings, the devices are still the same. It's about the kind of camera, audio, audio equipment, and the streaming later. The devices are still the same. How best can we use it with minimal equipment? It depends on the content itself, the kind of play, how many people, where that's being recorded. So sometimes, since we are producing it, since we are going to be editing many of our videos, we can even shoot the same thing with one camera from different angles, then put it on the editing table and edit it, as low cost as that. That's also possible. Okay, there's a person who's asking, should I focus on digital space promotion organically or paid? It's a call. Generally, organic promotion is better in the long run. Paid promotions, I don't know how much it really helps. You might get a large number of likes, but I really don't know if it is reaching the audience that you want your content to reach. Okay. Recommendation of lights for home recording. Okay, this has been addressed. Okay, I would like to know that if it is possible to do a live concert stream involving multiple artists using OBS. Yes, it's absolutely possible. Definitely possible. There is a way to link Zoom on OBS, so you can get all the multiple people on Zoom, and then through OBS also you can stream. But StreamYard does just that, so that's a possibility. You don't even need OBS. Something like StreamYard, or maybe going live on social media pages from Zoom itself, is also a possibility. Yeah, so it really depends on what kind of customization that you are envisioning. Okay, so if we have a 3.5 mm jack port on the laptop, what setup can we use for audio for online classes? If you use a microphone separately and a wire for speaker, then we need two ports. And yeah, yes, I have faced this issue also with a few laptops. Ideally, two ports is good. Then audio separate, and the mic input is separate and the audio output is separate. It solves majority of the issue. If it is only one port, the way I see it is best is to use a Bluetooth headset. So you are able to hear the audio output from the laptop. At the same time, what you speak is also captured by the laptop. So that's the best I could think of. On the other hand, maybe if you can also add a card and have two jacks and do it. That's another possibility. Adapt your teaching methods other than adapting teaching methodology, like I was mentioning, creating aids that will help students to both understand from the live interaction in class, as well as otherwise outside of it. So which means pre-recorded content being sent, e-documents being sent. I think these are some of the ways I feel would be better. And also the way the class is structured itself, what is being done in class. I think apart from the technical aspects, these are some of the things that I could think of. For Kathak dancers, which mic can be helpful for Padant on FB Live? Uh, Again, for Padant, only for Padant, a Boya mic, a lapel mic like this is good, or even a Bluetooth headset is good. On the other hand, if you have Padant on one side, let's say you connect it with a SM58 and a cable cord mic with a sound card, and you have another mic for footwork, then you need those two, and the third input will be from the track. So that's how you get a balanced sound from the pre-recorded track, Padant being said, and the foot mic for the footwork. Some clip certain frequencies. Yeah, they do. Some platforms do clip certain frequencies. No, not much can be done, but every platform is working. They are updating their no they are updating their versions, and the user experience is getting much better. Okay, which is the best option for video audio inputs in OBS from multiple participants from remote locations? Uh, Zoom doesn't give the best quality. Yes, that is right. But at the end of it all, video conferencing platforms have their limitations. Not much can be done really with respect to that. We can't really expect the kind of audio video input like how we might get by pre-recording something and editing it and producing it. So we'll have to compromise on the quality if we are looking at multiple people sending doing things live simultaneously. On the other hand, it's always better to ask people to record their pieces from their multiple locations and edit all of them together so that the content gets much better. Okay, this year dance exams are going to be conducted in main exam body. Which app do you feel is most advisable, especially for the written papers in dance? Again, it's a subjective question here, which is good. In my experience, I have had a fairly good experience with Zoom for all the classes in comparison with any other thing in any other platform. Teams is also good, so that's what I can say here at the moment. Yeah, okay. So there's a person who says there is too much overload on Google and Amazon and very confusing. Yes, that's precisely why this session has been structured this way. I have also been reading all the information that's available online to the best possible extent, and also with experience and speaking to other artists, technicians, and handling events myself. The whole idea is basically to put all of this information in a capsule so that the learning curve is shortened. Yes. So thank you so much for this feedback. Great. So these are some of the observations, questions that I've had in the chat box today. I have answered to the best of my ability so far. Thank you everyone so much for being with me all this while. And I would really like to thank NCPA for organizing this session, and also HSBC who's supporting NCPA for this initiative. Thank you so much. I look forward to interacting with all of you in various different capacities in future, and wishing you all the best for all your artistic endeavors. Namaskar. Thank you.